The Library Asset Manager, LAM, is a group of scenes rigged in such a way that the resulting structure allows for easy tracking of missing links while creating an asset display that can help improve file management and reuse. Open the LAM to find out which assets are missing. All the assets are numbers, so it is a very straightforward process. Once we know the number, locate the source file, copy the name previously input on the null object, and use it to locate the missing asset. This process is more convenient than trying to retrieve file name through modules file selection, as we can also copy it and insert it on a search engine. For Mac, I do recommend two applications, Go to File and Easy Finder, both spectacularly efficient. For Windows, I do recommend Everything, similar to Go to File. It has its limitations and is not recommended for use while doing live performances or live recordings. Since the LAM is not part of the software, it's like an scaffolding. The structure resulting is pretty heavy, and it occasionally produces freezes. Updating all projects is pretty simple. While it may take a bit of time if the project has tons of files, once it's done, relinking assets becomes a breeze. And if your files come from your own library, you don't need to collect assets to archive the project. I do keep source 1 for my LAM background, but you can use anything, of course. You will see this later on. The best way I found is by simply replacing the module file by the source zip you will be using it from. Since the missing asset marker will get through files with transparency, the alpha markers need to be activated in a different way. For these markers, instead of linking the module, we need to get inside the marker scene and activate the alpha marker. This won't be visible on the source scene, but it will appear on the LAM window. The folder structure is done in a way that will help us navigate and deal with the amount of scenes created to produce the LAM. Some scenes are just headers to define sections within the contextual menu. Placing our scenes inside the correspondent section simplifies retrieving them later on. The playlist section should contain the scenes that will be recalled on the playlist panel, while nested scenes should contain only scenes that have been created to compose the main ones on the playlist. Library asset management contains the bonds of the preview and missing link capabilities. The grid background can be customized with any image or video you fancy as a backdrop for the asset library to make it more personal. The missing asset marker can be customized on font, color, size, or content itself. Same goes for the alpha marker. Size, color, font, or message can also be customized. Under Do Not Touch, you'll find the scenes necessary to create the LAM functionality and that are beta left alone, as fiddling with them may affect the structure usability. The only ones that may be of interest are the resolutions. I have set them pretty low to avoid hogging memory as much as possible, but if you prefer a smoother look for the LAM windows or the thumbnails, here is where you can change them. As commented earlier, the structure needed to support the LAM can be quite heavy on the system, reason why there are 3 templates with different sizes. And while I found the LAM to be a blessing during production, I've also found that it tends to produce image freezing when playing live. Luckily, Magic has a feature that allows us to bypass this problem without any issues. As a note before going into details, it's worth mentioning that I have tested the LAM only on a couple of computers, and that maybe newer and more powerful processors may perform better. The feature I mentioned is Save Folder to Project. With that we can save the folder and the playlist, and it will remove anything else that is not used directly. The resource looks a bit messy and needs to be tidied up, but it optimizes the project for live performances. So basically, you have a master file with the LAM and your assets, and from that you will extract one that is for the live show while keeping the master for archiving purposes. And if your files are part of a library, that may be the only file you need to archive. If you made it so far, thanks for your time, and I hope the LAM is useful for your projects.